Caleb, you say it. Nico, you think will be a Heisman frontrunner after this week? Is that the question?
Yes. Will Nico be a Heisman not a Heisman frontrunner, the Heisman favorite after NC State?
He will definitely not be the Heisman favorite, but he will be a Heisman. He is already a Heisman contender, and he will be even deeper into being a Heisman contender. I mean, Carson Beck led the SEC in passing last year. Georgia, I don't believe is going to lose anytime soon. Probably the first opportunity is that Texas game. And there's familiarity there. So I think Carson Beck right now, I would say, is the front runner. Even though Dillon Gabriel is the betting favorite, I think we all know what you get from Dillon Gabriel. We've seen it for like 6 years in college football. But Nico's going to continue to grow. And a lot of times that's who wins the Heisman, right? RG3. Nobody saw it coming. If you look at it, I think I went through it yesterday. 3 of the last 4 years, the guy who won the Heisman Trophy was not the betting favorite. So somebody that can come out of nowhere and win the Heisman Trophy, or be the 3rd, 4th, 6th highest odds and win the Heisman Trophy. So he'll be a continued Heisman contender, but I don't think he's going to be the favorite.
Well, you mentioned Dillon Gabriel specifically, and he is the favorite right now, according to most lines. He's going to put up great numbers, but I think if people really watch the games, which some Heisman voters don't, I do. I think Nico is at another level. I think that his ceiling is higher, to use an NFL term. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, what you get from Dillon Gabriel is Hendon Hooker with lesser rushing yards. That's what you get. I mean, his stats have been almost the same every time. The other thing that I would caution people about Dillon Gabriel is it's the first time in his career he's running a different system. He's ran exactly the same system everywhere that he's been, whether it was at UCF or Oklahoma, because Jeff Lebby was the OC there. So Dillon Gabriel's running a different system, and we'll see how that goes for him. But his stats are not going to be eye-popping. They're going to be very good. And so does Oregon win enough that having very good stats gets him there? But no, Nico is a different level pro prospect. We were trying to go through it like at the end of last week. Okay, who does Nico remind you of? Or like to have the hype and the lure before you do a single thing on a football field, part of that because of the NIL deal. I was looking at saying, well, maybe Tebow, because Tebow was already a thing, even though they couldn't trust him to run the offense his freshman year. They just had goal line packages for him. And Paige Dower mentioned to us Tua, because she was working at Alabama at that time, University of Alabama, doing content for them. And she said Tua was almost exactly the same thing. And I could see that, right? I could see Nico having that Tua, Tebow, that kind of ceiling in college football. So, yeah, his ceiling is definitely higher.
I would throw out there, Caleb, I want your take too. I would throw out there Bryce Young, because I felt like everybody I talked to in the SEC were like, he's going to take over and at least be very good. He might win a Heisman. So that would be one that I would throw out there as well, Caleb.
Bryce Young's a good one. The thing that stands out to me with Nico, before I want to go down some of the guys on the list, is that I was actually tracking Will live on Saturday, and FanDuel moved Nico from 6th to 3rd in real time on their Heisman odds. Then the rest of the games happened, and he's now down to 7th. And so he went from 6th to 3rd to back down to 7th. His odds are right back at where they were before last Saturday, which is at plus 1,400. Cam Ward has moved ahead of him, and I understand. Do we all agree that Cam Ward earned the right to move ahead of him after what he did last Saturday?
Yeah, absolutely. He looked unbelievable.
Yeah. Okay. So Cam Ward for Miami, absolute domination. I understand Carson Beck. I want to get to the others. I'm a little frustrated by the Dillon Gabriel one, because I understand it's not Vegas. It's not in Vegas's nature to overreact. But come on, we all saw that Oregon-Idaho game. And Idaho's not even a low-level FBS program anymore. They're FCS, and they won 24-14. He should have dropped, in my opinion.
Yeah, I do wonder how much of that is them trying to make money, right? Like, it's a little bit of it is, they're capitalists. So I wonder if that's why Dillon Gabriel is at the top, because there's going to be hype around him, Oregon, all of those things. And he's a familiar name that you can go with that is going to put up very good stats. Yeah, I'll be floored if Dillon Gabriel wins the Heisman Trophy this year. Just mouth agape if that happens. But could I see Cam Ward? Here's the thing about Cam Ward. Last year, Mario Cristobal, the coach of Miami, brought in an air raid offensive coordinator, didn't let him run air raid. And this year, in the first quarter, they don't really run a lot of air raid stuff. Second and third quarter, they do. Fourth quarter, nope, park the bus. We're going to run the ball because that's what we do. I'm an offensive line guy. And so I do wonder if Mario Cristobal is going to let Cam Ward do what he did in the middle of that game against Florida. And if he but I will say Cam Ward looked fantastic, and that system can build to putting up astronomical stats. But look, I think Nico is going to be in the Heisman conversation. I think he can be a Heisman finalist. He can win the whole thing. And to me, that's plenty good enough for a guy who had started one game in his life in college football before we got to the Chattanooga game.
I agree. If he ends up in New York, that's a win, and Tennessee's in the college football playoffs. There's no question.
So I'm going to name these quarterbacks that are ahead of him on FanDuel, and I want you to just tell me if they'll be ahead or behind Nico after Saturday. So let's start with Dillon Gabriel. Will Nico be ahead of him? Yes or no?
Yes.
You think Nico will? Wait, Dillon Gabriel's number 1 in the Heisman race right now. You think Nico will leapfrog him?
Yeah, I don't think Dillon Gabriel's going to be a Heisman finalist.
All right. Well, no, I'm saying after Saturday.
After Saturday? No, absolutely not. No.
Okay.
I just thought you meant at the end of the year.
Let's play this game. Yeah, I'll say after Saturday and then at the end of the year. So after Saturday, you say no. After Saturday, you say no, but for the end of the year, you say yes, right?
Yes.
All right. Jackson Dart.
No, yes, Jackson Dart will be ahead of Nico, and no, he will not at the end of the year.
Okay.
If you look at the stats for Jackson Dart last year, they weren't that great, right? Like, so I just think that's what Lane does with his quarterbacks, and it wins, so he should keep doing that, but it is going to probably keep Jackson Dart from winning the Heisman or even contending.
Yes. I'll go yes and yes. He'll be ahead of Jackson next week and at the end of the year.
Okay.
I'm with Dave on this. Yes and yes on that.
Okay,
too.
so am I saying yes, Nico will be ahead, or yes, the other person will be ahead?
Yes is for Nico. Yes is in favor of Nico.
Then no and yes.
Gotcha. Okay, there we go. All right, Cam Ward.
Yes and yes, or no and no. Nico will not be ahead of him, and I don't think Nico's going to finish ahead of him. I am concerned because Mario Cristobal, if he actually lets his quarterback throw the forward pass for an entire season, it'll be the first time he's ever done that. But when you have a quarterback that good and an air raid offensive coordinator, you're going to let that guy cook. And I think he will this time because I don't know that his job doesn't depend on it.
All right, so last 3, Carson Beck, Jalen Milroe, Quinn Ewers.
Carson Beck, no and no. Jalen Milroe, no and yes. And Quinn Ewers, no and yes. I think Quinn Ewers, he's never stayed healthy. Like, he's never been healthy for a full season. And I just don't know why this would be the time that changes. He holds the ball a really long time because he's tough as nails, and he gets blasted a lot. He's kind of very Big Ben-esque, but without Big Ben's body. So I think he's going to play 10 games like he always plays 10 games.
With that
so you think
that would make him Little Ben?
He's Little Ben, yeah.
So just to make this clear, what everybody just heard, Will does not believe that Nico leapfrogs anybody in the Heisman race after this week.
Not this year, not this week. I don't know that the stats are going to be insane this week, and I think other people are going to have big stupid stats everywhere. Now, the thing that will help Nico is that there are no other games in the evening. So it's pretty much just going to be Tennessee and North Carolina State if you want to watch a big college football game on Saturday.